Okay, we're going to be doing another live stream here. Well, I guess that's obvious. I guess I don't need to say that. So, let's see. So here's where I'm at with the chess set. Here's the rook piece and the knight piece. Last time I did a live stream, the knight was actually like a horse, like it looked like a regular knight piece on a chessboard. But people commented that it just looked too generic, and I kind of agreed with them. And so now I'm changing it up and making it more like a knight. So just based on a knight. Now the rook is also kind of a knight. You know, he has this knight-like helmet. But I want the knight to have a little bit different of a helmet. Somebody was also mentioning, like maybe, well, there was a lot of comments. So people said, yeah, it's confusing. They look too similar. I'd get confused playing chess. There were other people saying, I have, an expensive chess set, and those pieces are often more difficult to tell apart. Like sometimes the queens and the bishops look very similar and things like that. And so I think I just gotta choose a design that will be interesting. The idea of doing like a ponytail back here, I think is kind of a fun idea. So maybe I'll experiment with that. So that's the rook and the knight. The bishop, this is what that one's looking like. A little bit easier to distinguish by the hat. And then the king and the queen back here, and the pawn is based on a child. And I did that because I like the idea of that the pawn represents basically unlimited potential, and so do children. They have unlimited potential. And people were commenting, oh, isn't that like a war crime? You're sending out the pawns to get killed in chess. Well, remember, they're not killed in chess. They're just taken. So you just capture pieces. You don't kill the pieces. So capturing the pawns. So I guess I'm just going to be working on the details. And maybe I'll try adding a ponytail to this. To the back, so he's got kind of like this mohawk thing and then a ponytail on the back. I think something like that could be kind of fun. So I'm gonna try that, and then I'll see how I like it, and we'll go from there. Yeah, I think something fun, the ponytail for the knight, something like. And I wanted it to be a very interesting from the side view. That was an important thing for the entire design of all of these sculpts. If you're watching live, then feel free to ask questions or make comments or whatever you'd like. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Just gonna pull it closer. Okay. Let me see. So let's do it about like that. I'll try to get it to where you guys can see where I am. Okay, so I think I do like the idea of that kind of a ponytail type thing. And we'll just have that. So the ponytail, pony, it's the knight. That's our reference to the horse. And these, somebody was mentioning that the style of the pieces, like the bishop looks like I forget what he said, like like a Hindu king, or I don't remember. But anyway, that they're like a bunch of different styles mixed together, that it's not really one style. And I'm okay with that. This is just going to be, I'm just trying to make a chess set that looks cool, that that's kind of fun. And so I'm not too worried about, you know, historical accuracy or anything like that. I just want it to be cool and for the pieces to feel like they go with each other, rather than being accurate to you know, history or chess in general. So let's see, let's kind of have this ponytail flare out a little bit on the sides. We'll have it kind of square off a little bit. Kind of have it be a little bit wavy. Wave. Something like that. We'll have it come out basically exactly. And you know, to make it clearer, I could put some negative space in here, but I want to try to avoid that if I can, because that will complicate the mold making process. I want these to be fairly simple and straightforward pieces, and any weak areas like that will make it more likely for the pieces to not last, and there will be other issues. So I'm just trying to simplify it in a way that keeps it together. Yeah, I think I like this kind of ponytail thing as another way to differentiate the two pieces. Coming out of the okay, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, and there was a lot of opinions on what it should look like, but in the end I just got to make a decision and sculpt it the way I think will make the best design, in a way that'll go with the other pieces. There we go. I think that is looking better. Oops. Somebody is saying that they preferred if there was a mirror where you could see when I was talking, and I think it's a good suggestion, but then I forget and I just like slide this table all over the place and lose orientation of where I am. So maybe I need to set up the mirror next time in a way that's stationary, even though I think I'm out of focus with that, but maybe can't tell as much. Somebody's saying, Ayo, sir, I love your videos. Please, can I show you my first sculpture? I'm a big fan. Absolutely. I think the easiest way to send images is to my Instagram. So Andrew Joseph Keith 15. on Instagram. I think that's probably the easiest way to send images. If you want that. And then if you want like specific critiques on your work or things like that, if you're on my Patreon at $15 a month, then I give like specific feedback for people that want critiques on their sculpture or advice for sculpting specific projects and things like that. But if you just want to show off your work, some of your first sculptures, I'd love to see that. And you can send that to me over on Instagram. And you can also tag me in the, if you do it as like a post and then tag me. I try to share student work when students tag me in their sculptures, and I try to share that on my stories over on Instagram. And if you don't have an Instagram, then I think you can find my email in the in my link tree. I think there's a place to contact me if you don't have an Instagram. And I think the link to that is in the YouTube profile. So now I'm starting to try to work on the symmetry. They're not going to be perfectly symmetrical. It's not like a digital sculpture where you can just copy and paste one side onto the other. But I do want them to be fairly symmetrical as much as I can. And so that's, yeah, I think I like I think the ponytail gives it some difference from the side view, and I think that combined with this kind of mohawk thing on the top, I think that's enough to differentiate these two pieces so that you know, like, oh, this one's the horse. It's got the ponytail. This is this is the knight. Yeah, I think that works. So whoever gave that suggestion, I appreciate that. That was a good idea, and I'm going to incorporate that into the sculpture. And so this is fun. This has kind of been like a collaboration between many people that have left comments about it and stuff like that. Because originally it was going to be much more of a horse, and some people said, "Oh no, go back to the horse." But I already re-sculpted it, so there's no going back. I should have re-sculpted it on a different stand, but I re-sculpted it on over the horse maquette. So this was the horse before, so now there's no going back. Here's how that's looking. Yeah, I think I like that. It's a knight, but it feels different than this other knight. And to accentuate the difference, I'm going to make this more triangular, how the visor is. This one's going to be coming at like an angle. Okay, so I think, yeah, I like that. Okay, there we go. That's going to be it. It's not a horse. It's a night. The person is saying, I tagged you, but I can't send the images. I don't know why. Well, yeah, if you tag me, I should be able to find it, or send me a message on Instagram. And usually you can send images through the message. Though if we haven't had a conversation before, maybe they block the sending of images. But just say, hey, I'm Mr. Duck. I'm Mr. Duck that commented on your live stream. And Mr. Duck saying, and thank you so much. You helped me a lot. Keep up the good work as well. Well, thank you, and I'm glad that that I helped. I'm glad that you found value in whatever help you got from what I put out. I try to do just that, so it's always good to hear people that find value in what you do. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing some of your work. Okay. Now, so I've been playing chess a little bit more on chess.com, and like I was saying in the video where I talked about this project, I'm not very good. And I'm just finding out just like how, like, you don't realize how bad you are until you learn a little bit more and you've played a little bit more. And you know, there's a scoring system like a ELO, I think it's called, in chess. And I thought I would be like, you know, 800, which sound like people that play chess a lot made 800 sound like that's about average. So I was like, oh, I'm probably about average. But then I start playing and I'm like a 400 or like a 450, which is like very beginner level. And so that it is humbling and humiliating to realize that you're not as good as you thought you were. But I'm probably better at sculpting than those people that are beating me at chess. So I find some solace in that. Somebody's asking, what kind of clay are you using? This is a non-dry modeling clay that I got from Dollar Tree. I actually just picked up some more. So let me grab the packaging because it looks a little bit different than it used to. So this is the wax that I'm using. It's a non-dry modeling clay is what it's called. And one of these 7-ounce packages is $1.25. And then I mixed a color combination that I liked, and then I mixed in some beeswax. So I think I took out like the black, the brown, the purple, and half of the red, and I think maybe the green as well. And that gave me kind of this greenish gray. And then I mixed everything else together and then mixed in about half of this clay and half beeswax. And I prefer it a little bit harder for these types of things when I want more details. I want the clay to be firmer so that it's not being messed up as I'm like grabbing it and moving it and all that. I like this clay. If price isn't an issue, then I would go with Chavant NSP medium. And what I like to do is mix in just a little bit of hard in with the medium if I'm using it for maquettes, for smaller designs like this. And the reason is just that little bit of hard clay, and the Chavant hard is very hard. It's like wax. It's a really hard material. So I mix in a little bit of hard with the medium, and that gives me this more firm clay to work with. So, but yeah, this one is inexpensive. It's definitely cheaper than the Shavant. If you have, I mean, sometimes beeswax can be expensive depending on where you are. The person is saying, I've never tried to add beeswax. I never thought to add beeswax to modeling clay. Yeah, it works good. It makes it a little bit, it does make it a little bit more waxy, so it doesn't stick to itself as easily, but it's firmer, so it's a firmer. And I think a better recipe uses just a little bit of beeswax. This one's like half beeswax, so I put a ton of beeswax in. But another recipe that somebody suggested on a live stream was to take 2 pounds of this type of non-dry modeling clay, or plastilina it's also called. So you take 2 pounds of that, or about 1 kilogram, and then you add in 150 grams, or about 3/4 of a cup of paraffin wax, and then 150 grams or 3/4 of a cup of beeswax. And I did try that, and it's nice. It's not quite as firm as this because it doesn't have as much wax, but I think that recipe is a good recipe for like a poor man's version of the Shavant NSP clay. And I think it ends up, once you add in the waxes and everything, it ends up being like $3 to $5 a pound, whereas the Shavant clay is usually like $5 to $10 a pound, depending on how much you get. Or if you only get 2 pounds, it can be like $20, or it can be like, yeah, it can be like $25 for 2 pounds, so that's like $12 a pound. So, but if you buy it in bulk, then it becomes a little bit cheaper. Somebody's saying, they're saying, oh yeah, because paraffin is much softer wax too. I think paraffin is usually a little bit harder than beeswax. So I don't know if the paraffin wax, which is just like candle wax, but you want to make sure that there's no additives in it. So try to get unscented, like white candles, or just paraffin wax by itself. But I don't find it, usually it's firmer than beeswax, I think. But adding both of those can make the clay a little bit nicer. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna start kind of smoothing things out with the tool, and trying to just clean up the sculpture. All my knives are dirty with other types of, or other mixes of wax. I've been kind of experimenting with different wax recipes lately, which is kind of fun. Or clay recipes, not wax. But a lot of the clay recipes involve beeswax and other types of wax. Mr. Duck says, I never win at chess. Yeah, that's rough. For me, it seems like losing in chess is so much worse than the joy I get from winning. The pain and the humiliation from losing is so much worse than the like feeling of accomplishment that you get from winning. And it's just terrible because it's like, you know, you made a mistake and you're not very good. And so that hurts. And then the other person, Rakeli B, is that what it is? Rakeli B was saying, oh, that makes sense. I've only had paraffin wax for like miniatures and stuff to make hands soft. That probably has additives. Yeah, if it's soft, then it has some sort of additive. But paraffin wax, and then I've used microcrystalline wax by itself. Microcrystalline wax is fun to sculpt by itself, but you almost have to do it by hand. You can't really use tools because it's so it sticks to metal and wood so much. So I only use it with, like, when I'm doing things that I can just do by hand. So this one, this back here, can you guys see this? This guy is a microcrystalline wax, and you can see all the fingerprints from just taking little pieces of wax and pressing it in. And this is a very soft wax. It's not hard at all, and it's really nice to sculpt. I really like that for gesture studies and things like that. But for something like this, where I want to finish it up a little bit cleaner, it's too sticky. I need to be able to work with tools. Okay, let's see. And then I try to keep a little bit of the clay in my hand, just to warm it up a little bit. So this is hard and it's not warm. It takes a little bit for it to warm up, but I've just found that the warmth from my hand is usually enough to make it soft. If I just hold it in my hand, by the time I'm ready, then I can grab a little piece and add it to the sculpture. But I'm getting to the point where I'm not adding a lot of, it doesn't need a lot of clay. Maybe to the base I'll need to add some more, but for the most part, I can just now I'm taking the knife and rolling it across a surface. This is something I like to do for my abstract sculpture designs, and you can see it cleaning up that helmet, cleaning up those surfaces. And you can kind of roll from one direction and then come roll from another direction, and I want to make sure that that plane change from one side to the other is along the center line of the sculpture. So let's draw that in just so we can see what we're doing. Go. Somebody else is asking, what clay is this? Yeah, it's a mix of non-dry modeling clay and beeswax. Somebody's asking the brand. So I got this at Dollar Tree. Yeah, I got this at Dollar Tree. It's just called modeling clay or non-dry modeling clay, 7 ounces. So if you see a non-dry modeling clay, also called plastilina or plasticine, or there's like a lot of names for it, but it's just oil-based. An oil-based clay mixed with beeswax. About half clay and half beeswax for this one. Or maybe a little bit less beeswax than half, but quite a bit of beeswax. And then there's a recent video on the Proco 3D YouTube channel where I show how to mix the colors from this clay, how to mix different colors, and I really like this clay. I think it's the cheapest clay that I've found for non-dry modeling clay. And then somebody's asking, can you just stick these sculptures on the shelf? So these ones I'm going to mold and cast. I'll cast them in probably resin. But yeah, you can, like, if you're done with these maquettes, or if you're just using it as a maquette or a small model to do a larger sculpture in stone or something like that, you can put these away and leave them, and they don't dry out. They'll always stay malleable. As they cool down, it gets a little bit firmer, and that beeswax helps to keep it pretty firm, so I don't have to worry about it disfiguring it all. And then if I want to sculpt it later, I can just come back and sculpt it. So that's what I like about these types of non-dry modeling clays. If you want a clay where you can like bake it, then you probably want to use a polymer clay like Sculpting, and those you can just bake in a normal oven and then have a finished sculpture. Yeah, but once I finish these, yeah, the hope is to make a mold and cast them, and then I need to find a place to get a chessboard. That's it has to be a fairly large one because these are kind of big pieces. And then hopefully I want to run either a Kickstarter or maybe just sell them off my website or something, and have some fun with selling some of these. Why don't I use polymer clay? I don't like it as much if the plan is to do a mold with it, and it's a little bit more expensive than oil-based clay. So if I know that I'm going to be making a mold and casting it, then I'll use an oil-based clay. I just prefer oil-based. This plastilina or plasticine or non-dry modeling clay, whatever you want to call it. I just prefer this. But I've used polymer clay in the past for commissions. Like if somebody's like, oh, I want you to sculpt this, and then I don't want to have to go through the process of making a mold and casting it, and if it's just a one-off piece, then I can use polymer clay, and that's fine. Somebody's asking, what material are you thinking to make copies out of? It'll probably be, they're saying resin, ceramic, or others. It'll probably be resin at first, though it would be cool to do some of these in ceramic. I'd have to make plaster. I'd have to probably change the designs a little bit and do plaster molds if I was going to do ceramic, and then I could maybe cast them in like porcelain or something like that. But if I was going to do that, then I'd have to have a lot of interest, so there'd have to be a lot of people that were like, oh yeah, I want to buy these, and then I could maybe invest in getting my own kiln or something like that too, for the manufacturing process, because that is a lot more work intense, or a lot more work involved with ceramic. But for the beginning, it'll just be in resin, and I might do some additives like sand or something like that to add some weight to the sculpture, but resin for sure. Resin and maybe some sand or something else added to weigh them down, because I do like for the sculpture to have some weight to it. Somebody's saying that would be cool and expensive. Yeah, yeah. Kilns are kind of expensive. That's why I haven't invested in one. Oh, also I didn't have a home before, but now that we've moved into our first house and we have we can make room for it in one of the garages or something. That would be a fun thing to add to the realm of possibilities, doing ceramic sculptures. Okay, it's coming. It's coming along. Yeah, I think I like that ponytail. I think that helps differentiate it. Differentiate it between the rook and the horse. Yeah, that's got more of a horse feel now that it's got the ponytail. Maybe I'll even push this ponytail out back a little bit farther. I want there to be this nice swooping S-curve. Yeah, something like that. Okay, let me add a little bit more of a base to this one. Yeah, because I mixed in some wax with this clay, it doesn't stick to itself as much as it used to. So you kind of have to work to get it to stick to itself. But if you hold it in your free hand like I'm doing, and just keep it warm in your free hand and then kind of work it a little bit, squish it a little bit, then I found that helps it stick to itself a little bit better. But if you have the money for it, then I'd just go with the Chabant NSP. Maybe that's something I need to do. I need to add some affiliate links into my link tree so that some Amazon links to some of my favorite types of clay so that I can make just a little bit more money off of people that are going to be buying clay anyway. So why not? And I think the cheapest I've found the Chabant NSP is on Amazon recently. I used to be able to find it cheaper on a site. I think it was AFA Supplies or something like that. But their price has gone up, and I found it cheaper on Amazon. I think it's the same company that does it, but for some reason they sell it cheaper on Amazon than they do on their own website. So I don't know why that would be, but that appears to be the case. Maybe because Amazon can do so much of the delivery. There's less work involved. Somebody's saying, "What about Monster Clay?" You know, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I haven't tried it yet, so I need to purchase some and try it. I got to do but I've heard good things about it. There have been people that I've been sculpting with who have been using it, and they give me like a little piece to just feel for a second. But you can't really tell that much about a clay by just squishing it in your hands. You actually have to do a full sculpture with it. You have to try warming it up and heating it down, especially with these oil and wax-based clays. And then you have to see if it works well for your style, and then what firmness and and everything like that. So I do need to try it. I wanted to do a video. Maybe I'll do a video of, you know, professional sculptor tries monster clay for the first time or something like that. So I do have one of those planned for the future, but I just have to get the clay and then sculpt with it and try it out. So I will do that at some point. And I am hoping to, you know, I'm hoping to grow my YouTube channel, so, and that could be a popular video. People seem to like those types of videos, so. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more of a gut to this guy. He's like a, I'm thinking like a power lifter kind of build, where they're not like bodybuilders. They've got some weight to them and thickness to them, but still very very strong. Somebody's asking, do you have a heat gun nearby to warm up the clay? No, but I did warm up the clay just in an oven at like the lowest temperature that the oven would go. And I warmed up this clay, and then I would just take the clay and put it onto the base at the beginning, just as like a basic shape, like just a tube shape. And then I'm able to move that around and add things to it. And I found that just holding it in my hand is enough to keep it soft as I'm working. But at the beginning stages, yes, I like to warm it up. I do have a heat gun, but that heat gun is so hot that it just like melts the surface. So I don't usually use that. I just put it in the oven at a very low temperature, as low as the oven will go. And I'll leave it there until it's warm. You don't want to heat it up so much that it starts to melt, which this will do since it's wax and oil based. But I'll leave it there for a little bit, and then start to sculpt with it while it's warm. And you want to, especially at the beginning stage, that's very helpful for it to be moldable and soft. Somebody's saying, dude, I need to tell you that you need to get those affiliates in sometime this week. I'm gonna find your channel. I'm gonna fund your channel to high hell with the clay purchasing I'm about to do. Well, that sounds good. I do have the affiliate link, and so I think if you go to my latest video, my most recent video, then in that video there is the affiliate link to the clay I like on Amazon, the Siobhan NSP clay. And so if you're going to get that clay, then yeah, I definitely appreciate the support using the affiliate links. How many kilograms of this clay do I have? This one that I'm working with, I have, I don't know how many kilograms it is, but I have about, I filled up these containers, these old yogurt containers, with this clay, and I had about 4 of these containers worth of clay. So whatever that is, so maybe one of these containers is maybe 2 or 3 kilograms. Maybe 3 kilograms for, what is that, 6 pounds? No, maybe 2 kilograms, maybe 4 pounds. And then I have 6 of these. So whatever that is, or not 6 of these, but like 4 of these full. So I don't know what that is, but those yogurt containers are 32 ounces, so something like that. But I have a bunch of other types of clay. This was kind of just an experiment to see how beeswax affects the clay. So But yeah, what I'll try to do is get the affiliate links for the clay I like into all the recent videos and upcoming videos. Maybe even I'll put it in some older videos so that anybody interested can get those and help support the channel. And clay is always fun. Every time I get new clay, it's like Christmas. You know, you just want to sculpt with it. Though the clay, you know, as much as I like clay, and I recommend getting good quality clay, but it doesn't matter as much as, you know, as your ability as a sculptor, your knowledge of the body and of sculpting principles. So that's why, if you're really into sculpting, I recommend checking out the sculpting courses that I teach over at Proker.com. And those are, I think, a great resource for anybody looking to take on sculpture in a serious way and really get better and improve. Let's see. Somebody's asking, what do you think about the soft and hard versions? Do you see some special usage? Is it possible to mix them in one figure, for example, for some face details? I probably wouldn't mix them in the same sculpture, but soft clay is generally used for larger sculptures. If you're doing somebody that's life size, if you're sculpting a bronze sculpture, then you want to have it be really large.
Can I watch you?
Yeah. But if you're doing smaller sculptures, usually the smaller you go, or if you're doing like toy designs and something, or things like that, then you almost want it as hard as like a wax. So you want it to maybe to where you have to heat it up to be able to work with it, and then you want it to set up as like a wax so that you can get those little tiny details. This one's not as hard as a wax. It's like half clay and half wax. So I'm not worried about it being that hard, because I still want it to have kind of a sculptorly feel to it. I'm not going for like a perfectly, you know, baby smooth finish. I want it to still have some sculptorly textures to it. But that's kind of the general principle. The larger you go, the softer you want the clay, within reason. You know, you don't want it so soft that it starts to slump on itself or things like that. And then the smaller you go, you want a firmer clay to hold the details. And then somebody saying, yeah, the quality of the product will not cover up for the lack of practice and foundational knowledge of any given craft. Yeah, that's very true. You can have the best, you know, you can have the best, most expensive equipment for anything, and if somebody knows more about that skill than you do, then they can use equipment that's very subpar and still produce something that's better. That was something. Though having good equipment does help, you know, and I do recommend it if you can afford it. If you can afford nice clay and nice tools, then, and if sculpting is a hobby that you find a lot of joy out of, then I think, well, it's cheaper than a lot of other hobbies, so you might as well invest in nice materials and good instruction and things like that. But don't let the lack of materials ever stop you from sculpting. Like I said, this is like I've done a lot of sculptures with this dollar store modeling clay, and I've cast them with a cheap hardware resin epoxy and some plaster of Paris, and they've turned out really nice and just as good as if I spent a lot more on materials and mold making supplies and stuff like that. So you're interested, just get started and go ahead. Somebody's saying your Amazon affiliate link for the Chavant only shows the search result for the entire Chavant clay library. Does this mean whatever I purchase goes will give a portion to you? Just making sure I'm doing the right steps. Yeah, I did that just because I wasn't sure what people would want, whether they would want to buy 2 pounds or 40 pounds. Like whenever I get it, I get 40 pounds of the clay because that's the best deal, but you have to spend like $250 or whatever it is. So the lowest price is if you get it in bulk, but I realize that not everybody wants to get 40 pounds of clay at a time. So I just did it to the general search results so that people could find the color and the amount that they wanted, but that they would get the type of clay. And then for general sculpting, I recommend the medium, the Chavant medium NSP. The Chavant hard is very hard. It is like wax, so you almost have to sculpt. You almost have to warm it up to be able to use it. But yeah, I think whatever you get, as long as you click that link and then get something based on the results from that link, I think whatever you get will have an affiliate commission or whatever you call it attached to that. And so I definitely appreciate it if you were planning on getting clay and you use that affiliate link. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you. And then maybe in the future I'll do some affiliate links to the specific products. Somebody's asking, do you reuse clay often or keep the sculpt and buy new clay? So if I like the sculpture, I try to keep it in the original clay, and I try to get new clay for the next sculptures, because I think the original clay, it is there's something about it, I think it almost always looks better in the original clay, and it's something that I've seen professional sculptors, and they have big studio warehouses full of all of these sculptures in the original clay. And it's just really cool, and so I'm trying to be able to do that. But if it's a sculpture I don't like that much, don't care about it that much, it's not something that I care about, or if I've made a mold and cast it in something else, and I just like the original doesn't mean that much to me as a sculptor, then I'll just reuse that clay. I reuse clay all the time. But then I also do like to buy clay when I can afford it. So yeah, the answer is both. I do both. I'd say if the piece means a lot to you and you really like how it looks in the original clay, I would try to save it if you have the space for it. Okay, so I'm just adding this base on. This is looking a little bit better. And then I like the, this one's a little bit more stout and thick, and this guy's a little bit more thin and nimble. They've got a different look to them. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's enough to differentiate and say that this is, that's the rook and that's the knight. Yeah, I like that. So whoever gave this suggestion for the ponytail, I don't know if I had a suggestion for the mohawk, but that was something that I saw on, I just looked up helmets online, and I saw this on one of them, and I was like, oh yeah, that would be cool, and it does look cool with it. So, but it was a lot of iterations of the helmet to get to this point. So, but that's looking pretty good. This guy's got to have a six-pack. He's skinny and ripped, so I'll have to do the six-pack. Or maybe I'll even look up images of like body sculptors, thin body sculptors, or athletes or something to do that. Somebody's saying, what inspired you to design chess sets into busts? Well, I just, my brother had been playing chess a lot, and he came over and we played some chess, and I've been teaching my kids chess, and so we've just been playing a lot of chess lately, and I look at the designs for the normal chess pieces, and they're very simple, they're very abstract, and I was just thinking, I could do something cool with this concept of building my own chessboard, and in a way that would be worth it. And then I looked up chess boards online because I thought that like chessboards, like wood chessboards, like actual wood chessboards would be cheap, and then they're not cheap. They're like $200 for like natural wood chessboards, just the board without the pieces. And so I was like, well, I could do something cool that could be kind of that an option. Like some people might, especially people that enjoy chess, and then they also just like kind of unique, one of a, well, it's not one of a kind, but it's unique. It's a different style. And I've seen different style chess sets, and even the cooler ones, I feel like I could probably do something that's as cool as that or something. And maybe this will be by the end, or maybe it won't be that cool, but that was just kind of my feeling. Was I've been playing chess a lot, I might as well design my own board and just have some fun with it. Yeah, somebody's saying, well, you can't really cast wood. That stuff has to be carved manually every time. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe that's why. It's so expensive for a wood chessboard. But maybe I need to figure out a way to, because when I was younger, I worked for a company that did wood boxes for board games, but they would use a wood laser that would cut wood with a laser, so it would like burn through the wood. And I was thinking something like that, designing a chess set where you could burn through the wood and maybe stain one of the pieces of wood, and the other piece of wood you could leave just with the natural light color. And I got in contact with a person, but I guess he's not doing that business anymore, and so I'll have to figure out another option for that. Let's see, I'm actually gonna, I felt like after I added the abs, then the stomach got too thick, so I'm gonna remove some material. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. If they're sculpting wood boards, then it's almost always individual pieces that you have to cut, and then you have to cut them in such a way that everything aligns perfectly, and that seems like it could be kind of a pain. So I guess that makes sense that it's more expensive. Somebody's saying like a CNC machine. Well, it was a little bit different than a CNC machine. It was just an actual laser that would go around and like burn through the wood. CNC machine is like drilling through, but I guess a CNC machine could do basically the exact same thing. Or maybe if I if I got to the point where I was able to, or where it was worth it to manufacture a lot of these with the board as well, maybe I'd get like a little cheap CNC machine, and then maybe what I'd do is I'd get the flat like board, something like this size of this turntable, and then use a CNC machine to cut out the squares and then do epoxy over the top, like a black epoxy or something, and then put it through a planer. Or I'd have to find some way to make the process so that I could make multiple of these. Let's see, somebody's asking, is it possible to make a smaller version out of this figure, or does it need a new sculpt for this? It is possible, and there are resins that you can, it's like there's like types of resins that you can do where you pour it in, and it's like a gelatinous thing, and then as it dries it shrinks. So you actually can, like, if I cast them all in that type of resin and then it shrunk down like 1/3 the size or something like that, you could do that. Would it be worth it to do something like that? I probably, unless this was like something where people could just not get enough of these chessboards and they're just going like crazy, and it's like, it's going to be $1 million, multi-million-dollar company, and everybody wants these, then it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should make these larger and do some smaller ones and play with the designs and maybe do many chessboards and different designs and keep going with it. But it's kind of, the market kind of decides a lot of the times with stuff like this. So if there's going to be like mini versions of it, probably not. We'll have to see what happens, but it could be done. It can be done, and you can also do it the other way. There's resins that you can fill it up, and then you put those in water, and it like explodes it to like 3 times the size, and you can just like keep going with that and just make them. You could make this life size using that type of resin and process. So there are ways to do it mechanically, and then obviously you can take a 3D scan and blow it up that way, and that would be a lot more straightforward than those other methods. Let's see, I'm gonna... Yeah, and somebody's mentioning that you could scan them. Yeah, you could definitely 3D scan them and then scale them down. That would probably be the easiest way. But even with materials, if you wanted to use like traditional materials and stuff like that, they have mold making materials that are just for that, just for scaling up or scaling down, which is pretty cool. Somebody saying, I wish you luck for your chess project. I really like your designs so far. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's from Mr. Wonderflow. Nice. Mr. Wonderflow. Yeah, this has been a fun project. Somebody says it makes me want to try to make mine. Thanks. Yeah, do it. If you're interested in sculpting, and if you like chess, or even if you just are interested in trying a project like this, you should try sculpting your own chess set. And you only have to sculpt 6 pieces if you understand mold making. You just have to make a really good mold or several molds of the pawn, because the pawn is the one that's going to be made, you know, over and over again. You have to make 8 pawns for every, well, for every 1 queen you have to make 8 pawns, but for every 2 of the other pieces you have to make 4 pawns. So you gotta make the molds well, or make several molds so that they last for several iterations, or so that you can cast many of them. Somebody's saying you could cast it with magnets at the bottom and a magnetic board. Yeah, that would be fun. Magnets are kind of expensive, but I could see that being a really cool way to add some interest to the board. Let's see. So now I'm trying to add some clay to the bases to make sure that they're all looking about the same. And then I think eventually what I'm going to do with the base is something similar to this, where it's kind of an octagon shape, cut off the sides here. So something like that eventually. This queen piece has some stone dust on it, because I'm also working on a project of turning this queen piece into a stone sculpture, which is a pretty fun project. Let's see. Somebody's asking, do you have some relationship to clay, ceramic, or porcelain? I don't have access to a kiln right now. Maybe I should look, see if there's anybody in town that has a kiln. But yeah, that would be cool. I was saying that if I did like plaster molds, and then porcelain, and then did cast porcelain or something like that, that could be a really cool, really fun sculpture, or a fun way to do these designs in porcelain. But I haven't done a lot of that, just because I don't have access to a kiln right now. Okay, so now I'm just gonna kind of move the pieces and just see how they feel together. Kind of just trying to get a feel of the size of the bases and the pieces in general, just how they look. And these are large, and then the pawns will be in front. So the pawn right now, I feel like it goes with the other ones. I think I like the pawn looking up just a little bit more. Something like that. Somebody's saying it's practical when you have to play through a few days and have to move frequently the board. I love the muscly rook. Oh yeah. For magnets is practical. Yeah, and then also just having having them have some weight to them, especially down at the base, having some weight. Yeah, that is very helpful when especially if you're playing faster. You're trying to make moves, and it's always very annoying if the pieces keep falling over while you're playing. So that makes a lot of sense. Somebody's saying, I feel the bishop needs some more. Yeah, that's probably the one that I've worked on the least. So it will be a little bit different than it is right now. Needs to be more. But it's kind of going to be smaller, thinner, kind of like a small man. You can see that in relationship to the queen, the bishop is about the same height. I was thinking that it's kind of like a small man. That's what I was thinking. Let's see. Let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can see. And then so now I'm just imagining, the pawns in front. And I'm trying to think about what so even though the bishop is smaller, I feel like it is too small. So let me just add a little bit of mass here to the bishop. It's a little bit, just doesn't feel like it goes with the rest. And I want these to feel cohesive, like they go together. Somebody's asking, did you already sculpt in this material? I assume that he's talking about the porcelain. The person that asked about the ceramic or porcelain. I have sculpted in ceramics. I haven't sculpted in porcelain, but I have sculpted in like terracotta clays and things like that. And it works fine, and I know many sculptors that I look up to that use ceramic almost exclusively. Leroy Transfield is one of them, and he is an amazing sculptor, and he does almost just ceramic sculptures. Let's see, with this one it had like a indent around it. I don't feel like I like that. I don't feel like I'm going to go for that. I think just the octagon shaped base is what I'm going to go for. Red Frog is saying shoulder pads. Am I going to do shoulder pads? Somebody was suggesting that for the knight to do shoulder armor. He said that it's called what was it called? It's like a paldron or something like that. Maybe that's not the word. But anyway, that there's like the armor that goes on the shoulders. I don't know if I'll do that. I think I like it kind of the natural feel better and just differentiating these by the hats. So I don't think I'll do shoulder armor for this particular design. Or shoulder pads. Yeah, I probably won't do shoulder pads. But maybe in a future one. Somebody's saying with or that person, Red Frog is who's saying that. Red Frog is saying with raku style they would be great too. I'm not sure what raku style is, but I guess I didn't do a ton of research. Like I said, I'm just kind of trying to do things that look cool and look fun and interesting, but I don't actually know a lot about. But I should do some. Maybe I should do some research on chess, and I did look up like some old chess boards and stuff like that. And, you know, even those old ones, I'm like, I could do better than that as far as how they were sculpted. But I guess they got the job done. They got the job done. Somebody's saying, I liked your thinking about the pawns. Yeah, it was something that I did a short where I just mentioned, like, oh, I like the idea of the pawns being children. And then I got a bunch of people accusing me of basically being pro war crimes, you know, sending kids out to battle. But the idea behind it was that a lot of the times the younger generation is the generation that pays the cost of war, and it's the older generation that is sending the kids to battle. You know, it's the older king that sends these little youth into battle. You know, usually they're not children, but they are, you know, people with their lives in front of them, people with potential in front of them. And so that was one of the reasons I just felt like, you know, kids can have that high potential, and so I like the idea of it being based on a youth. Maybe, you know, maybe I'll go a little bit older. This one looks pretty young, but I don't know. I kind of like how the design is coming right now, so I'm not. We'll see as I start to finish these up. And a lot of these, you know, once the design is there, I still have a lot of work to do, cleaning things up and getting a consistent texture over all of the sculptures, making things symmetrical. With this, there's still a lot of the details of the face that need to be worked out. Same thing with the queen. So there's still quite a bit to go on this project, and I got a little bit behind because I had some commissioned sculptures that came up, which I'm very grateful for. I'm always grateful when people are willing to pay me to sculpt something, but it does take time away from other projects that I'm doing, which is fine. You know, that's just how it goes. Let's see. So Red Frog is saying so many subjects can be treated through a chessboard. Remember seeing in a museum in Berlin an old chessboard about the Cold War. Yeah, it can there's definitely a lot of symbolism that can be evoked. You know, it is kind of it is a battle type game. You're imagining a battle type scenario where there's sacrifices of pieces and you're trying to get the advantage over the opponent, and though, you know, in real life there's even more options than on a chessboard, because you can work out a truce, or you can do other things. I guess you can call for a draw on chess, which I guess is kind of a truce. So maybe there is even that element to it. Let's see. Maybe, oh no, I don't like something about this bishop. Maybe it's maybe the base is too tall. Maybe I need to take some from the base, shorten it down. Or maybe there needs to be some more taken off of the hat on top. Let me try doing that and see what that looks like. grab some more. And I try, as I run out of clay in my hand where I'm warming it up, I try to just grab some more and attach the warm clay to the cooler clay so that I always have some soft clay in my hand as I'm working, so that I have it when I need it. Somebody's saying the head's too thin. Yeah, that could be it too. Yeah, I could use something, but I haven't. It's the one that I've worked on the least, so I'm not too surprised that it needs some work. You need to think about a nice quality board to matching the figures. Yeah, I'm looking into that now, like a manufacturer or something, or some way to do it. Because yeah, I do want it to be like a higher end kind of a premium type product that's worth it. You know, that's worth it to the people that are going to get it. And the board is obviously an important part of that. And these pieces, the board has to be pretty large. I think it has to be at least 2 inches, 2-inch squares for the board. So 2-inch squares. What is that? That's like 2.5 centimeters for the squares of the board, making the board like 22 inches or something like that. So it has to be a pretty large board for these pieces to fit, just because they're large pieces. Okay. Yeah, let's try adding some thickness to the face. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see what I'm doing. Red Frog is saying the beard elongated it. Yeah, beards kind of mess with the structure of the face, or how it appears. So let's do that, and then let's add some thickness to the back of the head. Maybe push this transition down a little bit. Do you include the stands in the figures? I assume you're talking about these wood bases. I don't think that these will be included in the final casts of the sculptures. I don't think they will, but I don't know. Maybe when I make the mold, I'll try to go down here, but then when I fill it up, I'll only fill it up there. That way I still have the option if I wanted to do the entire piece and have it be included in the sculpture. I'll consider that, or I'll think about that. But yeah, having group input has helped a lot, I think, on this project. It's kind of fun. Though there is, you have to strike a balance, because you can't please everybody, so So you can't try to make every change that people suggest, or even all the good changes. You have to kind of pick and choose what you're gonna focus on, and then ultimately you have to just decide what you think looks best as the artist, because they're not going to be, people, when they decide to purchase your work or not, they're not going to be like going through your comments and seeing whose advice you took, and they're just going to be looking at the end product and deciding if they like it or not. Mr. Wonderflow says that would be clever to cast to do that. Yeah, I think I will try to do that, just because I think these are all about the same size. They might be a little bit off on some directions, but these are about, I think, some of them. So the one with the pawn is a little bit smaller than the other ones. But yeah, that would be cool to have that as an option if I wanted to have them be even larger, though then you'd need a chessboard that's even bigger, so that it adds kind of another level of, or another issue. Somebody's saying, well, one of the questions is, do you find it difficult to be a professional artist? And I'd say that yeah, it is difficult. It's difficult to monetize being an artist. So that's something. Well, it's not a secret. So people know that it's difficult to monetize because there's a lot of people out there that want to be artists, and a lot of people, producing stuff, and finding people to purchase those things is difficult. So if you want an easy way to make a good living that doesn't require a lot of effort or learning business, or that's just more straightforward, then I would recommend just having art as a hobby, and get a job and just have art be a hobby, and that's fine. And a lot of artists do that, and then when they retire, they're able to focus on art more, and then they become successful. So I'd say the only people that I'd recommend, try to be an artist professionally, are the people that would be miserable if they tried to do anything else. So if you just are miserable, and that's kind of how I was. Like, I just had to try to make being an artist work, and I'm still trying to make it work. So I have the sculpting courses where I teach, and that's where the bulk of my income comes from. But some months, the January is famous for, well, it's not famous, but for the company that I work for, it's common for January to be a slow month. And so, where normally, I'd get maybe $2,500 from those online courses, this month it's going to be closer to $1,000, maybe $1,500 or $1,200 or something like that. So it's like half of your income. So you have to be more disciplined with finances when you're an artist or when you're self-employed, and you have to find other sources of income. And so that's why this last month it was, a godsend. It was a huge blessing to have some commission work where I could do some sculptures for actually another sculptor who wanted some designs done, and I was able to make a little bit extra money through that. And so there's ways to do it. There's ways to make money. It is possible, and I'd say there's never a better time than right now to be an artist. But don't expect it to be easy, and don't expect to be able to just make art and not have to worry about things like marketing and sales and connecting with galleries. You gotta hustle and be a salesman for your own work, and And having good work is just one element of that. The other, like, there are people that are not great artists, but they're great at, they're people, and so they're great at talking to people, great at, talking to people, investors, and doing shows, or working with galleries, or collaborating with other artists. And so there's a lot of skills that are involved in becoming successful, and you just gotta find a way if that's what you're determined to do. But I'd say if you just kind of like it as a hobby, if it's just kind of enjoyable, then I would just find a decent way to make a living, and then use it as a hobby. Like, there are many people that have hobbies, and that's fine. And I think it's great. The only reason that I'm doing this is because I'd be miserable if I tried to do something else. And so that's kind of where it is. Let's see. The stability and balance will change without the socket, or without the base, I assume that they're saying. Yeah, and I'm trying to take that into consideration. So when I look at it from the side, I'm trying to make sure that it's not leaning forward or back, that it'll be balanced from side to side. All of these, I want them to be balanced, especially forward and back, since from side to side, I try to keep them symmetrical for the most part. Perhaps you could add a stole to the bishop for distinctness. A stole, I'm not sure what that is. A stole, S-T-O-L-E, for distinctness. I'm not sure what, I know what a stole is. Let's see. Artists of today are t-shirt and shirt, meaning art and business. Yeah, well, I think that was kind of always true. I think to be a successful artist at any time, you had to be a successful business thinker if you were going to be successful during your lifetime. There were successful artists that struggled, their whole lives, and then they became famous, once they're gone, and people are like, "Oh my goodness, look at this! Look at what this person created just by themselves in their home, in their basement, or." They devoted their life to all this creation, but they were not good at marketing it. And then the value is found after they're gone, which I just think is such a sad thing, because, it's just sad that as a society we reward those that are gone, the artwork of those that are no longer able to cash in on their works. That those are so much more valuable than the people that are working and selling artwork today. And it's too bad, but that's just, that's just life. That's just a fact about reality, and we value old masters and scarcity, and we know that with the old masters that are gone, they're not going to make any more, so that artwork is scarce, and that its value will go up over time, and all of these things. So there's reasons for it, but it does seem like an injustice when you're an artist and you're like, "Oh, I'm creating things that should be worth as much as the works of these old dead masters," but they're not, because I'm not them. So that's just how it goes. But there's no, I guess I'm complaining, but there's no sense in complaining. It's just, you just got to deal with the reality and do the best you can with what you have, and try to get better at marketing yourself and finding people to collaborate with and stuff like that. Oh, somebody's saying with a stole, it's like a sash hanging from the shoulder. Yeah, that could be interesting, though I'm trying as best I can to keep the design symmetrical from side to side. So I don't want anything crossing over to make it asymmetrical from side to side, because something that was really important for me was the side silhouette side silhouette looking kind of similar to a chess piece, and then the front and back silhouettes being interesting. So for this one, I don't think it would go with the design, but it is a good suggestion, and that is interesting. A stole. I did not know that that's what it was called. Well, I knew a sash. A sash. Yeah, Picasso, Warhol, and Dali were masters in marketing. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Picasso even mentioned that he didn't put himself in the same category as these other masters. He just kind of caught on to or he just saw a trend and then kind of created work to appease the people that were going crazy over this kind of deconstructive philosophy, and his work really fed into that philosophy, and people were then willing to put a lot of money and effort behind it, or a lot of money behind it, because it was this time period of, you know, breaking things down and pushing against boundaries and all of those things. But I think in his heart of hearts, he understood that he wasn't creating something that was truly great, and that he was just kind of playing off of the social, psychological philosophies that were kind of floating around during his time, and it was, I think, society that was rewarding. I don't know. I guess I'd call it kind of like childishness, because Picasso himself said that it took him his whole life to learn to paint like a child again. So it was kind of society wanted this childish looking artwork, and he played into that. But was his work really that great? Like, I mean, look at it. It's not, like, if you look at his early stuff, Picasso, he was decent. You know, he was a decent painter, but he became famous and successful because he basically gave up the pursuit of mastery in exchange for following a social fad, and you know, now his work is famous and it's worth a lot. But I wouldn't trade what I do for what he does. Even, well, maybe I would if for enough money. I don't know. But no, it just feels like it's soul draining to do something to make things that I see as ugly. So I don't know. Let's see. But yes, definitely masterful at marketing. They understood what was going on and they were able to use it to their advantage for sure. Are you frequently live? I haven't been lately because I've been working on some commissions. I've been trying to do more live streams, but I haven't done a ton. But maybe I'd like to do more. But this one's been a pretty active live stream, which I always like. A lot of the live streams I'm just sculpting by myself, and there's no questions or anything to talk about, so it's just like silent, and I'm just working. So, you know, that happens sometimes, but it is nice when there's more activity. Do I do it often? No, and it's kind of sporadic, so you kind of just have to watch for it, because I'm not committed enough to set a specific time and be regular about it, though I guess that's what I should do if I wanted these to be more participated in. But I'll try to do it. I try to do it every once in a while. So, what would you say about someone struggling with self-confidence? I make stuff, and then I look at what I've done, and I sabotage my mind to find all the wrong in my work. Well, let's see. Well, I think there's a healthy amount of self-critique, and I think any artist that becomes a master needs to have that. You need to be critical of yourself. But if it gets critical to the point where you're like, well, I'm just never going to be good, look how bad this is, I give up, you know, that's not helpful. So it has to be a helpful amount of self-critique where it's like, you know what, I really don't understand this part of the body, or I really don't like how that turned out, and you have to learn from those things. And if you don't like it, like, figure out what you need to change so that you like your own work, because you have to like your own work, especially if you're going to try to sell it. You have to like it. So I'd say it's not necessarily a bad thing unless it's getting to the point where you're avoiding creating artistically because you're so self-critical. So I'm pretty self-critical, but I think of it as a good thing, and I like to compare myself with artists, but I don't see it as a bad thing because I get better. When I compare myself to others and I see what they're doing, and I have my Instagram full of people that are better than I am in some way, or who I would like to emulate in some way, then I think that does help. But maybe that's because I already have had, time to improve my skills, and I can kind of see myself moving towards their style of artwork, whereas if you're just a beginner, that might be very overwhelming or discouraging to see how far your skill level is away from other people's skill level. So I'd say, I guess the main thing is, if it's helpful, if it improves, if it causes you to want to improve, then it's good. If it causes you to get so discouraged that you stop creating, then it's bad. So you just got to find that balance, and that's difficult, but that's what I'd say to that. Picasso earned over 300 million francs. Yep, he was very successful. So $100 million. Yep, very successful, and there's no denying that. But I see his success as a business person. I don't really see it as an artist. But maybe that's maybe that's splitting hairs. But that's just kind of how I see it. I think that he caught on to a social psychological phenomenon, that a philosophy that a bunch of people were buying into, literally, with their money, and supporting artists who did it. And he caught on to that and became the name of that movement, that kind of deconstructive movement, and he was rewarded heavily financially for it. But I think even he admitted it towards the end of his life, that he didn't really see himself as an artist. Like, well, I'm not sure if he said that, but I've heard that he said something along those lines. But maybe that is incorrect. So fact check me if I'm wrong. So the sash crosses over the chest from one shoulder to the opposite hip. A stole is like a scarf you only wear around your neck, with both ends hanging down your chest on either side of the neck. Let's see. So it's like a scarf you wear around your neck, with both ends hanging down your chest on either side of the neck. Okay, maybe I'll have to look it up after this. Maybe I'll look up some images for it and see if that's something I want to add in. But yeah, I appreciate the suggestion. It is helpful. Let me see. Let me look at these. Yeah, I think I'm going to bring this out a little bit too. The nose is a little bit weird on this. Well, the whole face needs to be established with this guy. Oh, now it's bulbous. Thanks for your comments about self-critique. I'm not sure it's the only... let's see. I'm not sure it's the only him part of his success. The media helped a lot. Like Biscuit in example. Let's see. I don't know if I understand that comment. Maybe you're talking about Picasso, that the media helped a lot. Yeah, and I think with that, like, if you catch onto a movement that's being forwarded by people in power, people that have a lot of power, a lot of influence, a lot of money, and then they're pushing a message, and you're able to become the face of that message in the art world, then they will basically donate to your work by giving you a lot of praise and a lot of notoriety. And so I think that's what happened with Picasso. It was kind of a collaboration between him and the people that agreed with the statements that he was making as an artist. But I don't agree with those statements, and I don't think his art was good. So I wouldn't want to create art like that, and I wouldn't want to support art like that, because I think we should only create what is good and beautiful and praiseworthy, and that's not what I see Picasso as. But if somebody said, "Well, you'd like a Picasso work of art because they're worth so much," and to that I'd say, "Well, yeah, I definitely have one, and I'd sell one, but I wouldn't want to create it. That's not the kind of work that I want to create." Though maybe, I don't know, maybe with enough financial incentive, I would create ugly things if people paid enough for it. It's hard to know. But I'd like to think that I wouldn't. But it's really hard to know, because you're not in that situation. But he became basically once in a lifetime type artist because of his success. I mean, it's just something you don't see very often historically. Let's see. Somebody's saying, "I think the stole is nice, but the other bodies are all naked." Yeah, naked, or at least simplified. I'm trying to have them be like a simplified, almost like some of them. I was thinking you could maybe say like, oh, it's like the armor that looks like the body's underneath, but I think more figurative. The female figure, I didn't want to. I wanted kind of the feeling of like a tight dress, but you can still kind of see the anatomy through. But yeah, they're all kind of have that shirtless feel, most of them. Oh, Jean-Michel Basquiat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But what is good is it's subjective too. Well, yeah, I'm not really on the. I don't really hold the opinion that all art is completely subjective. I think that there are objective standards of beauty. Now, those might be difficult to pinpoint because art is a very complex subject, and there are subjective elements and taste that go in. But I think beauty is not entirely in the eye of the beholder. I think there is objective things that are beautiful, and when society starts to say, well, nothing's really beautiful, nothing's really ugly, it's all opinion, and then they start to put ugly things where beautiful things once were, I think that's a bad thing. It's a bad philosophy, and it's a bad road to go down, and it makes things worse, it makes things uglier. And I think we can all kind of feel that, and we see that in modern artwork all the time. Like some of the recent sculptures, big recent. There was one. What was it? It was like the Martin Luther King, but it's just like arms hugging each other, and it just looks strange and weird. I should do a video, just critiquing some of these bizarre sculptures that are going up, but they're just there's just a lot of strange. Or just abstract, stuff that's just blah. You can't really criticize it because it's not trying to be anything. It's not trying to say anything. So it's not ugly necessarily. Sometimes it is just outright ugly. But with a lot of the artwork nowadays, it's not ugly. It's just not anything. It's just random shapes. When it comes to, you know, some of these sculptures that are going in public places, and then we're tearing down sculptures that are masterfully done by artists, because, you know, people nowadays think, oh well, the people that they were sculpting, you know, I don't agree with those people, or we shouldn't idolize those people. But then they're tearing down these beautiful works of art and putting in place of them just ugliness. So I don't entirely agree that art is completely subjective. I think there's objective beauty that we have a sense of, you know, and we can kind of sense when something's beautiful. And I think children are more honest about this. If you've been taught, you know, that art is completely subjective, and you've been convinced by those arguments, it was something that you were taught. It's not something that you came by naturally. You just kind of decided that beauty doesn't exist and ugliness doesn't exist. Because I think children are great at saying, like, oh yeah, that's ugly, or that's beautiful, or that person's, you know, fat, or that person's thin. They're very honest. And so that's kind of what I think when it comes to art is in the eye of the beholder. I think no, there are some things that are objectively beautiful and some things that are objectively ugly. Let's see. Mr. Wonderflow is saying also art. I think there is a style of expansive art and a style of homemade art, and I think with some style of art, it's super hard to earn money. Yeah, well, that's definitely true. And, you know, if you're going to try to get into galleries where they're selling art for thousands of dollars, then you have to build up a portfolio of artwork that feels like it belongs in a gallery. And if you're going to make artwork that sells good on Etsy, which maybe this is something I wouldn't expect to see this in a gallery, but I could see it maybe as a medium to high-end product on Etsy, maybe with a custom board, or maybe a collaboration with somebody that makes nice wood boards, and then cast them in a good-looking material. And it's kind of like a higher-end chessboard. That's kind of what I'm going for here. And I could see that being moderately successful, though I don't know. Like, you don't know until you try, and maybe it is, maybe it won't be. I don't know. You don't. It's hard to say ahead of time. So I'd say, you know, if you're gonna be an artist, then try both. Try creating some things and selling some things online, and then try creating a portfolio of maybe five pieces that you could see being inside of a gallery selling for, you know, $5,000 to $10,000, and try to create a portfolio of both is what I would suggest. That's what I would recommend, which is why I like doing these types of things in clay, and then I also like sculpting stone, doing stone sculptures. Quality is a big thing, I think. Yes, definitely. Beautiful in the aesthetic, but maybe not in their meaning, just different art. So beautiful in the aesthetic, but not in their meaning, just different art. I don't know if I understand how something could be beautiful aesthetically, but not in its meaning. I don't know if I understand the distinction there. Just different art. Somebody's saying, or Red Frog is saying, I'll debate your point with a piece by Vasarely, The Black Square. It's just a black painted canvas. The beauty is at the time the painter was kind of forced to paint a Soviet leader. He changed the status quo. So he did it so he created something. So he created something that was like a blackness as a statement to say like this is where we're at. Like, so I don't know. I guess I'd have to see what he had to say about his own work if he was even free to say it. But I'd say good artwork can promote a bad message, and bad artwork can promote a good message. So the artwork itself doesn't necessarily, just like I think that there are great artists that, in fact, great sculptors. Some of the sculptors that I follow, and they create works of art that appear to be basically statues promoting atheism, like promoting a Darwinist atheist perspective. And maybe you agree with that worldview, maybe you don't. And I think that is not a, I think it's not a, well, I think it's not true. I don't think Darwinism, in the sense that we were created from rocks, like rocks basically turn themselves into us if you just wait a really long time. I don't believe that that's true. I think that there was a guiding intelligence, and that intelligence was God. I think that even if Darwinist mechanisms have happened in the past, that was all guided by an intelligent designer, that we were sculpted from clay, in the sense that that God took these raw materials and then created mankind out of that. And so that's what I believe. But I can recognize that the artist that's making these things is a talented artist making beautiful artwork, even though I disagree with the basically the premise of the artwork. So I think that that great artwork can promote bad messages or even evil messages, and I think bad artwork can promote a good message, like maybe you're creating something ugly or something that seems nonsensical, like a black square that doesn't seem like it should belong with other great and masterful works of art, but you're using that to promote a message of, this is the blackness of the whatever it is, the Soviet Union. I think that's what you were talking about. So I guess that's how I would think about it and approach it, is that just because the artwork is bad doesn't mean the message behind it is necessarily bad. But I do think that that beauty and ugliness exist as objective realities, that they're not just in the eye of the beholder, that, if somebody says it's beautiful, then it is beautiful. And I just don't think relativism holds up. I think we all recognize that there are intrinsic truths. There's things that are intrinsically beautiful and things that are intrinsically ugly or intrinsically bad or immoral. We all have this sense of these things, but it's hard to quantify in the same way that we can quantify math equations or quantify the laws of gravity or things like that. So it is complicated, but that doesn't mean that those things don't exist. That's what I think. I think the black square is showing his rise in reduction. So yeah, I don't know what the message behind the black square would have been, but if I saw a black square as an artwork, I would say that is a bad piece of art. I don't know what the message is, unless you study the specific work of art and what the artist said about it and all of that. Then you might agree with some element of why he did it, and then after you understand it, you might even say, oh, this work of art has value because of its historical significance, or because of its because of some other aspect of what the artist said or what he was trying to say at the time, and that's fine. But I think the abandonment of objective standards in the art world, and especially in fine art, has been, the result of it has been things getting uglier and worse, and fine art basically becoming a joke. Like it's a basically it's a joke or it's a scam, and that's how people see it nowadays. And I think it should not be that way. Like but it becomes that way when people say, well, art is completely subjective and nothing is better than anything else, and a banana duct taped to a wall is the same as a Michelangelo sculpture. And when you call them both fine art, when you call them the same thing, you're basically taking the Michelangelo stone sculpture and reducing it to the level of a banana taped to a wall. And you're saying these things belong in the same space. And that's what I just don't agree with. I just don't think that those, like, we should have a space for things that are masterfully done and that are beautiful and that are incredible. And that was where fine art, that was supposed to be where fine art was, that was what that space was for. And then when they changed it to, or when the philosophy of the society became relativist, saying that there is no objective beauty, then we can see the result of that. And it was, and I don't think it was a good result. Okay, let's see. Let's see, the super expansive Malevich one. So somebody's saying you need to read the paper next to the work to roughly understand the work. Yeah, that's the case with a lot of these. But that's what, like, I felt like when I went to college and I studied sculpture in college, and I had a lot of art classes. Any art class I could take, I would take. But I felt like half of the time they were just teaching you how to justify how bad your artwork is, how to explain it away. Because if you could have some deeper, like, convoluted, well, it wasn't always convoluted, but some deeper message behind the artwork, then it doesn't matter if the artwork is good or bad, or if it's well done or not. I mean, they didn't go right out and say that, but that was kind of the message. In fact, in one of the classes that I had, I think it was a figure drawing class, like, the teacher even said, well, you can draw the figure really good, and so what? Basically, like, so what now? Like, what does that matter? And I was thinking, well, then I win. This is a figure drawing class. We're supposed to draw the figure, and I draw the figure the best out of the whole class, so I win. And I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, isn't there some objective goal to be good at representing the figure? But that wasn't what the instructor was worried about. He wanted philosophies, and he wanted, political type like making some sort of statement and all of these things, which I think is fine. But if you're going to do it in using an art form that's beautiful and well done. Let's see. I'm getting off on a tangent. Let's see. Red Frog is saying, I think it's like how some people are pretty outside and ugly and stupid inside, and the opposite is true too. Well, yeah, let's see. Some people are pretty outside and ugly and stupid inside, and the opposite is true too. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is definitely the case. Did you make an écorché in school? I'd love to do one, but it seems very time consuming. I didn't. That was never something that we did. The sculptor that I studied under was Ryuichi Suzuki. Suzuki? Yeah. Ryuichi, and he mostly did abstract. He did beautiful abstract figures. And he was probably one of the best abstract artists or sculptors in the country. Probably one of the best in the world. I think his abstract work, some of the better ones, especially his figurative abstractions, I really like. But he wasn't interested in naturalism or realistic figures. It wasn't something that interested him. So when I was studying under him, I basically tried to learn as much as I could about abstraction, because that's what he was good at, and that kind of fed into the types of sculptures, the stone sculptures that I was sculpting at the time, and that I even still sculpt. I really like abstraction now, but I would have liked if we would have had classes with like the A Crochet. And I'll eventually do a Crochet mini course online that'll go with the other courses that I teach. The next one that I'm teaching is going to be on the hands, how to sculpt the hands, and that one I'll probably start making it in February. That's the plan, and start filming it. Just a little mini course on sculpting the hands, because that's something that's tricky. But then after that, maybe I'll do an A Crochet course, so that if you want to do an A Crochet and you're interested in it, you can get that course, and it'll just walk you through everything. And it is, an A Crochet will be time consuming, but there's ways to do it that can make it easier. And so that should be a really fun thing to dive into. And it's nice as an online instructor, I can kind of learn a lot as I teach. So I learn a bunch about anatomy and about sculpting these things as I teach. Sometimes I find out I'm not as good as I thought I was. Like for the portrait sculpting course, I felt like I was better at sculpting portraits, and then I find out that I actually need to practice quite a bit to get as good as I'd like to be. So there's my answer, I guess. I'd love to do one, but it seems very... Oh, yeah, the A Crochet. Yeah, A Crochets are going to be time-consuming. That's going to be part of it. Let's see. So, I think... What are we at? So, we're at 2 hours. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This was a successful session. Before, this guy didn't have a ponytail. Now he does. If you want to support the channel, I really appreciate it if you guys support me on Patreon, or consider purchasing my figure sculpting course or the portrait sculpting course. You can find those over at Proco.com, Proco.com/sculpture for the figure sculpting course. If you guys have any questions or anything that you'd like to see in the future, please let me know. And yeah, stay creative, stay productive. I'll see you guys around in the next live stream. Oh wait, before I go, is there a competition soon, please? I'll try to do one. So I'll try to do another competition pretty soon. It's gonna be a little bit. It's been a little bit since I did one. Is the last one a pawn? Yes, the last one is a pawn. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop. Have a good time. Yeah, we'll see you guys. Thank you guys for the comments. That was great.